What if I told you that Iran, yes, the modern-day nation of Iran, plays a critical role in the Bible's grand narrative of prophecy and world events? Often, when people think of the Bible, they focus on Israel, Egypt, and Babylon, considering these nations as the primary players in the biblical story. However, what if I told you that Iran, known as Persia in biblical times, was not just another empire, but a nation specifically named in prophecy to shape the destiny of God's chosen people? Iran's biblical origin story is more fascinating than you may realize. From the lineage of Noah to the reign of Cyrus the Great, the history of the Iranians is interwoven with some of the most pivotal moments in biblical history. But the truly shocking revelation is that God used Persia, a nation of pagan kings, to deliver Israel, rebuild the temple, and fulfill prophecies that were spoken centuries before they came to pass. In this comprehensive exploration, we will delve into how the Bible reveals the origin of the Iranian people, their rise to power, and their central role in shaping both the Old Testament and prophetic visions of the future. Buckle up, because what you're about to learn will change the way you view Iran, not just as a nation of the modern world, but as a key player in God's unfolding plan for the entire world. To understand Iran's biblical roots, we must journey back to the story of Noah and his descendants. After the Great Flood, Noah's three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, became the ancestors of all the nations of the earth, according to the table of nations in Genesis 10. One of Japheth's sons was Madai, the progenitor of the Medes. The Medes would later become closely associated with the Persians, and together they formed the foundation of the Median-Persian Empire, one of the most powerful empires in world history. The Persian Empire stretched from the Indus River to North Africa, encompassing many of the major regions mentioned in the Bible, including Israel, Babylon, and Egypt. But Persia's significance goes far beyond its military and territorial might. Its importance lies in the way God used it to fulfill his promises to the Israelites. The Babylonian Empire, led by King Nebuchadnezzar, had conquered Jerusalem in 586 BC, destroyed the temple, and taken the people of Judah into exile. The Israelites remained in Babylonian captivity for 70 years, as prophesied by Jeremiah. Then came Cyrus the Great, a Persian king who conquered Babylon in 539 BC. With him, everything changed. The book of Ezra opens with a decree from Cyrus allowing the Israelites to return to their land and rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. This event is recorded in Ezra 1:1-4, where Cyrus declares, "The Lord, the God of heaven, has given me all the kingdoms of the earth and has appointed me to build a temple for him at Jerusalem in Judah." Cyrus, a pagan king, was named over a century earlier by the prophet Isaiah as the one who would carry out God's will to restore Israel. Isaiah 44:28, 45:1. In one of the most astonishing moments in biblical history, Persia, a nation outside of God's covenant, became the instrument of God's redemption for his people. This marked a profound turning point for Israel and highlighted the central role of Persia in God's divine plan. One of the most remarkable elements of Persia's biblical legacy is the role of Cyrus the Great. In Isaiah 44:28, God refers to Cyrus by name more than 150 years before his birth, calling him his shepherd, who will fulfill God's purposes. In Isaiah 45:1, Cyrus is even referred to as God's anointed, a title usually reserved for kings of Israel. How could a foreign pagan king be called God's anointed? The answer lies in God's sovereignty and his ability to use anyone, even those outside of his covenant people, to accomplish his will. Cyrus's decree to allow the Jews to return and rebuild the temple was not just a political move. It was a prophetic fulfillment. The prophet Jeremiah had foretold that the Babylonian captivity would last 70 years. Jeremiah 25:11-12, 29:10, and Cyrus's rise to power marked the end of that period. The rebuilding of the temple in Jerusalem under the leadership of Zerubbabel, with the blessing of Cyrus, was a key step in the restoration of Israel. God had used Persia not only to defeat Babylon, the nation that had oppressed Israel, but also to facilitate Israel's rebirth as a nation. This was a reminder to Israel and to the world that God's plan is far greater than any one empire, and he can use even the most unlikely figures to bring about his purposes. Persia's role in biblical history doesn't end with Cyrus and the rebuilding of the temple. The book of Esther provides another powerful example of how Persia was used by God to protect his people. During the reign of King Xerxes I, also known as Ahasuerus in the Bible, a plot was hatched by Haman, an official in the Persian court, to exterminate the Jews living in the empire. Haman's hatred for the Jews drove him to manipulate the king into issuing a decree that would allow for their annihilation. However, through God's providence, a young Jewish woman named Esther had become the queen of Persia. Encouraged by her uncle Mordecai, Esther took a bold and dangerous step by approaching the king and revealing her Jewish identity, pleading for the survival of her people. Esther 4 verse 14 highlights the famous words of Mordecai to Esther, "Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?" Esther's intervention resulted in a dramatic reversal. King Xerxes, upon learning of Haman's treachery, ordered his execution and issued a new decree allowing the Jews to defend themselves against their enemies. This story, recorded in the book of Esther, is celebrated annually during the Jewish festival of Purim as a reminder of how God used Persia, and particularly Queen Esther, to preserve the Jewish people. The story of Esther is one of divine providence and protection. Once again, Persia, though a foreign empire, became an instrument through which God's people were protected. God's hand was evident throughout the story, using the Persian Empire as a backdrop for the miraculous deliverance of the Jews from annihilation. This further demonstrates how Persia, though not part of the covenant people of Israel, continued to play a crucial role in the unfolding of God's plan. God's use of Persia in the Bible extends beyond historical events to prophetic visions about the future world empires and God's ultimate plan for humanity. One of the most powerful examples of this is found in the book of Daniel. Daniel, a Jewish prophet who lived during the Babylonian exile, served in the courts of both the Babylonian and Persian empires. In the book of Daniel, we encounter several visions that reveal the rise and fall of empires, including Persia. In Daniel 2, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon has a dream of a great statue made of different materials, each representing a world empire. The silver chest and arms of the statue represent the Medo-Persian Empire, which would succeed Babylon as the dominant power in the ancient world. Later, in Daniel 7, Daniel himself has a vision of four beasts representing four successive empires. The second beast, a bear raised up on one side, represents the Medo-Persian Empire, symbolizing its dual nature. This empire would be vast, and its expansion, particularly under Cyrus the Great, would forever alter the course of history. Another significant vision involving Persia is found in Daniel 8, where the prophet sees a ram with two horns, one representing the Medes and the other the Persians, charging in all directions and conquering vast territories. However, the vision also includes a goat with a prominent horn symbolizing Greece and its king, Alexander the Great, who would eventually conquer the Persian Empire. These visions place Persia at the heart of God's prophetic timeline, showing that the empire's rise and fall were not accidents of history but part of God's divine plan. Persia's time of influence was prophesied to give way to the rise of Greece, but it was during Persia's reign that God's people experienced deliverance and restoration, fulfilling the prophecies of Isaiah, Jeremiah, and Ezekiel. Though the Persian Empire fell to Alexander the Great in the 4th century BC, its influence continued to be felt during the time of the New Testament. By the time of Jesus' birth, the Persian Empire had been replaced by the Greek and later Roman empires. However, the legacy of Persian culture, governance, and administration left a lasting impact on the ancient world. One of the more mysterious connections between Persia and the New Testament is the story of the Magi, the wise men who visited the infant Jesus in Matthew 2. Many scholars believe that the Magi were likely from the region of Persia and may have been Zoroastrian priests, part of an ancient religious tradition in Persia that practiced astrology and interpreting omens. The journey of the Magi to worship the newborn king of the Jews highlights Persia's enduring connection to the biblical story. Even after the fall of the Persian Empire, the wisdom traditions of Persia continued to influence the ancient Near East, and it was Persian scholars who recognized the significance of the star that heralded Jesus' birth. Additionally, Persia's legacy of tolerance toward various cultures and religions set the stage for the spread of Judaism and eventually Christianity throughout the Roman Empire. The Persian Empire was known for allowing its subjects to maintain their religious practices, a policy that influenced later empires, including Rome. This environment of religious freedom contributed to the flourishing of Jewish communities throughout the region and laid the groundwork for the eventual spread of the gospel. As we bring this exploration of Persia's biblical role to a close, it's essential to consider Iran's future in light of biblical prophecy. Many scholars and theologians believe that Iran, known in biblical prophecy as Persia, will play a key role in the events of the end times. One of the most significant prophecies involving Persia is found in Ezekiel 38-39, where the prophet describes a coalition of nations that will one day come against Israel. In the last days, among these nations is Persia, which will join forces with Gog of Magog and other nations in a massive battle known as the War of Gog and Magog. This prophecy, often seen as an event yet to occur, depicts a final confrontation between the forces of evil and God's people, with Israel at the center of the conflict. While the exact nature and timing of this war remains subject to debate, the inclusion of Persia, modern-day Iran, in this prophecy suggests that Iran's influence in the region will continue to have spiritual significance in the end times. Additionally, Daniel's prophecies about the rise and fall of empires, including Persia, point to a broader theme of God's sovereignty over the nations. Persia's role in biblical prophecy demonstrates that no empire, no matter how powerful, is outside of God's control. God raises up nations and brings them down all according to his divine plan. As we witness modern-day events in the Middle East, including tensions between Iran and Israel, it's essential to remember that these events are part of a much larger story, a story that began in the pages of the Bible and will culminate in the fulfillment of God's promises. The story of Persia, now Iran, in the Bible is one of the most remarkable examples of how God can use even the most unlikely nations to fulfill his divine purposes. From the descendants of Japheth through Madai to the rise of Cyrus the Great, Persia played a pivotal role in biblical history, from the restoration of Israel to the protection of the Jewish people in the book of Esther. But Persia's significance doesn't end with its historical role. The prophecies of Daniel, Isaiah, and Ezekiel remind us that Persia was part of God's larger plan, not only for the nations of the past, but for the future as well. Iran's place in biblical prophecy points to its continued role in the unfolding events leading to the end times. As we look at the modern world, particularly the tensions involving Iran and Israel, it's essential to approach these events with a biblical perspective. God's sovereignty over the nations means that every kingdom, every empire, and every leader is part of his plan. The story of Persia is a testament to the fact that God can use even foreign powers to fulfill his promises and bring about his ultimate plan for the redemption of his people and the world. History, as depicted in the Bible, is more than the rise and fall of empires. It is the unfolding of God's plan for the redemption of his people and the world. Persia, now Iran, continues to have a profound influence on the world stage, and its connection to the Bible reminds us that history is intertwined with divine providence. To truly appreciate Persia's role in biblical history, we must delve deeper into the lineage of Noah and the subsequent generations that shaped the nations of the earth. After the flood, Noah's three sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, are considered the progenitors of all human races and nations. In Genesis 10, known as the Table of Nations, we find a detailed genealogy that traces the origins of various peoples and tribes. Japheth, one of Noah's sons, is particularly significant in this context. One of his descendants was Madai, who is believed to be the ancestor of the Medes. The Medes in turn, are historically connected to the Persians, forming the foundation of what would become the Median Persian Empire. This genealogical connection places the Iranian people firmly within the biblical narrative from the very beginning of post-flood history, linking them to one of the oldest and most comprehensive genealogies in the Bible. The Medes Persians, emerging from the same geographical region, would rise to prominence at different points in history. While the Medes were instrumental in overthrowing the Assyrian Empire, the Persians, under the leadership of Cyrus the Great, would go on to establish one of the most influential empires in the ancient world. This continuity of lineage underscores the enduring significance of the Iranian people in biblical history, highlighting their integral role in the unfolding of God's plan. The rise of the Median Persian Empire and its biblical significance. The rise of the Median Persian Empire is a critical juncture in biblical history. Cyrus the Great, the founder of the Achaemenid Empire, often referred to as the First Persian Empire, was a visionary leader whose actions had profound biblical implications. The empire's expansion from the Indus River to North Africa not only demonstrated its military prowess, but also its administrative sophistication. Under Cyrus's leadership, the Persian Empire adopted a policy of religious tolerance and administrative decentralization, allowing various cultures and religions to maintain their practices and beliefs. This policy was instrumental in facilitating the return of the Jewish exiles from Babylonian captivity. Cyrus's decree, as recorded in Ezra 1 verses 1-4, was not merely a political act, but a fulfillment of God's prophetic word. Isaiah 44 verse 28 and 45:1, written over a century before Cyrus's rise, explicitly name him as the one chosen by God to accomplish his will. This divine appointment of Cyrus illustrates a recurring biblical theme. God can and does use foreign kings and empires to fulfill his purposes. Cyrus's actions exemplify how God can orchestrate historical events to achieve his divine plan, even through pagan rulers who are not part of the covenant community. The liberation of the Jews and the rebuilding of the temple. Cyrus the Great's decree to allow the Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple was a pivotal moment in Jewish history. This act of liberation is detailed in the Book of Ezra, where Cyrus is depicted as a messianic figure, an unexpected savior sent by God to restore his people. The rebuilding of the temple was not only a physical restoration, but also a spiritual renewal for the Israelites, symbolizing their return to a covenant relationship with God. The prophet Jeremiah had prophesied the Babylonian captivity and its duration, providing a clear expectation for the Jews. Jeremiah 25 verses 11-12, 29:10. Cyrus's decree aligned perfectly with these prophecies, underscoring the meticulous nature of God's prophetic word. This alignment between prophecy and historical events serves as a testament to the reliability and divine inspiration of the scriptures. Moreover, the fact that Cyrus, a pagan king, was named specifically in the Bible to accomplish God's purposes highlights the inclusivity of God's plan. It demonstrates that God's sovereignty transcends cultural and religious boundaries, and he can work through anyone to achieve his divine will. The Book of Esther, divine providence in the Persian court. The Book of Esther provides another compelling example of Persia's role in biblical history. Set during the reign of King Xerxes I Ahasuerus, the story unfolds within the Persian court, where Esther, a Jewish woman, becomes queen and ultimately saves her people from annihilation. Haman, an official in the Persian court, harbored deep hatred for the Jews and plotted their destruction. His plan hinged on manipulating King Xerxes into issuing a decree that would allow for the extermination of the Jewish population across the empire. However, through a series of providential events, Esther's courage and Mordecai's wisdom lead to the exposure of Haman's plot and the salvation of the Jews. Esther's role as a mediator between the king and her people emphasizes the theme of divine providence operating within human institutions. Despite being a foreign empire, Persia becomes the stage for a miraculous deliverance, highlighting God's ability to protect his people even in the most adverse circumstances. The annual celebration of Purim commemorates this deliverance, serving as a reminder of God's faithfulness and his ability to work through unexpected means to preserve his people. The story of Esther reinforces the idea that God can use anyone, regardless of their position or background, to fulfill his purposes. Daniel's prophecies, the sovereignty of God over world empires. The book of Daniel contains several prophetic visions that underscore the sovereignty of God over world empires, including Persia. Daniel's experiences in the Babylonian and Persian courts provide a unique perspective on the intricate interplay between divine prophecy and historical events. These prophecies not only reveal God's overarching control over the rise and fall of nations, but also highlight his strategic use of empires to fulfill his divine purposes for his people and the world at large. In Daniel 2, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon has a vivid dream of a great statue, composed of various materials: gold, silver, bronze, iron, and clay. Daniel is summoned to interpret the dream, as none of the king's wise men can provide an explanation. The statue represents a succession of world empires, each symbolized by a different material. The gold head symbolizes Nebuchadnezzar's Babylonian Empire, signifying its unparalleled splendor and dominance at the time. The silver chest and arms represent the Medo-Persian Empire, which is to follow Babylon as the next dominant power in the ancient world. This interpretation not only predicts the rise of Persia, but also establishes its significant role in biblical history. The choice of silver, a precious but less valuable metal compared to gold, suggests a kingdom of great value, yet inferior in some aspects to Babylon. The dual nature of the Medo-Persian Empire, comprising both the Medes and the Persians, indicates a coalition of two distinct cultures and peoples coming together to form a powerful and expansive empire. The prophecy continues with the bronze belly and thighs symbolizing the Greek Empire under Alexander the Great, and the iron legs representing the Roman Empire, followed by a mixture of iron and clay, which some scholars interpret as a fragmented future kingdom. This sequence underscores the transient nature of earthly kingdoms and their ultimate subordination to God's eternal kingdom. The detailed symbolism in Daniel 2 serves as a testament to the precise and divinely inspired nature of biblical prophecy, reinforcing the belief that God's plans are meticulously unfolding throughout history. Daniel 7 introduces a vision of 4 distinct beasts emerging from the sea, each representing a different world empire. The second beast, a bear raised up on one side, symbolizes the Medo-Persian Empire, emphasizing its dual nature. The bear's raised shoulder suggests the dominance of the Persian component over the Medes, highlighting the hierarchical structure within the empire. This portrayal underscores the complexity and expansive reach of Persia, showcasing its ability to influence vast regions and cultures. The first beast, resembling a lion with eagle's wings, represents the Babylonian Empire, characterized by its speed and ferocity. The third beast, a leopard with 4 wings and 4 heads, symbolizes the Greek Empire under Alexander the Great, known for its swift conquests and widespread influence. The fourth beast, which is different from the others and more terrifying, represents a future kingdom marked by strength and iron, like resolve, often interpreted as a Roman Empire or a future oppressive regime. Daniel 7 also introduces the concept of the Ancient of Days and the Son of Man, figures symbolizing God's eternal authority and the Messiah, respectively. The judgment seen in this vision emphasizes that despite the apparent power and aggression of these empires, they are ultimately subject to God's sovereign will. The vision serves as a reminder that earthly powers, no matter how mighty, are transient and will be replaced by God's everlasting kingdom, reinforcing the theme of divine supremacy over human affairs. In Daniel 8, the prophet experiences a detailed vision involving a ram with 2 horns and a goat with a prominent horn. The ram represents the Medo-Persian Empire, with its 2 horns symbolizing the Medes and Persians working in tandem. The ram's aggressive actions, charging in all directions, signify the empire's expansive and militaristic nature. This part of the vision highlights Persia's role as a dominant and assertive power in the ancient world. The goat, bearing a single prominent horn, symbolizes the Greek Empire under Alexander the Great. The goat's swift movement and forceful impact reflect Greece's rapid expansion and profound influence across Asia and beyond. The prominent horn is a direct reference to Alexander, whose conquest swiftly dismantled the Medo-Persian Empire, fulfilling the prophetic timeline outlined in the preceding chapters. However, the vision does not end with the rise of Greece. The goat's prominent horn breaks off, and 4 new horns emerge in its place, representing the division of Alexander's empire into 4 smaller kingdoms after his untimely death. This fragmentation foretells the eventual decline of Greek dominance and the rise of new powers, continuing the pattern of God's orchestration of historical events to fulfill his divine plan. Daniel 8 further elaborates on the interactions between these empires and the fate of Israel. The vision emphasizes that the rise and fall of these world powers are not random occurrences, but are part of a deliberate and divinely guided sequence of events. God's sovereignty is evident in the precise timing and nature of these empires, underscoring his control over the course of human history. Daniel's prophecies reveal that God's hand is actively shaping history, using empires like Persia to advance his plan for the redemption of Israel and the world. The prophetic insights provided in Daniel emphasize that no empire operates outside of God's sovereign will, reinforcing the theme of divine control over historical events. This perspective is crucial for understanding the broader biblical narrative, which consistently portrays God as the ultimate authority orchestrating the rise and fall of nations to achieve his purposes. The meticulous accuracy of these prophecies, particularly in predicting the rise of Persia and Greece, serves as compelling evidence for the divine inspiration of the Scriptures. The book of Daniel, written during a time of intense political turmoil and foreign domination, provided hope and assurance to the Jewish people that despite their current oppression, God's plans for their deliverance and restoration were steadfast and certain. Furthermore, Daniel's prophecies extend beyond the immediate historical context, pointing towards future events that transcend the ancient empires. The visions, encapsulated in Daniel 2, 7, and 8 highlight a recurring biblical theme. God's eternal kingdom will ultimately triumph over all earthly powers. This eschatological outlook offers believers a profound sense of hope and purpose, reinforcing the belief that God's divine plan is both grand and meticulously unfolding across the tapestry of history. The theological implications of Daniel's prophecies are profound, particularly regarding the concept of God's use of foreign empires to accomplish his purposes. The Medo-Persian Empire, as depicted in Daniel's visions, exemplifies how God can employ even pagan and non-covenant nations to fulfill his divine will. This principle underscores the universality of God's sovereignty and his ability to work through diverse cultural and political contexts to achieve his redemptive goals. Cyrus the Great, the founder of the Persian Empire, serves as a quintessential example of this divine strategy. Despite being a pagan king, Cyrus is depicted in the Bible as a divinely appointed instrument for the restoration of Israel. His decree to allow the Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple is portrayed not merely as a political concession but as a fulfillment of prophetic promise, highlighting God's intricate orchestration of historical events. This divine utilization of foreign rulers challenges conventional notions of divine favor and blessing. It emphasizes that God's favor is not limited to his covenant people but extends to all nations and individuals who align with his purposes. The inclusion of a foreign king in biblical prophecy serves as a testament to God's expansive and inclusive plan for humanity, reinforcing the idea that his redemptive work transcends ethnic and cultural boundaries. Moreover, the prophecies in Daniel highlight the futility of relying solely on earthly powers for deliverance and protection. Despite the apparent might and influence of empires like Babylon and Persia, they are ultimately subject to God's overarching sovereignty. This theological insight fosters a deep sense of reliance on God, encouraging believers to trust in his divine providence rather than in the transient strength of human institutions. To fully grasp the significance of Daniel's prophecies, it is essential to understand the historical context of the Medo-Persian Empire. The empire emerged as a formidable power in the ancient Near East, succeeding the mighty Babylonian Empire. Under the leadership of Cyrus the Great, Persia adopted policies of religious tolerance and administrative efficiency, which facilitated the integration of diverse cultures and peoples within its vast territories. Cyrus's approach to governance was markedly different from that of his predecessors. By allowing exiled peoples, including the Jews, to return to their homelands and rebuild their places of worship, Persia fostered a sense of loyalty and stability among its subjects. This policy not only served Persia's political interests by reducing resistance and rebellion, but also aligned with the prophetic promises made to the Jewish people. The historical actions of the Persian Empire, as recorded in biblical and extra-biblical sources, corroborate the prophetic narrative outlined in Daniel. Cyrus's decree, the administrative reforms of Darius the Great, and the subsequent rebuilding of the Temple in Jerusalem are all pivotal events that highlight Persia's crucial role in the biblical story. These historical developments underscore the accuracy and reliability of biblical prophecy, reinforcing the belief in its divine inspiration. Furthermore, the Medo-Persian Empire's influence extended beyond the immediate restoration of Israel. It played a significant role in the cultural and intellectual exchange that shaped the ancient world. The empire's policies of tolerance and multiculturalism facilitated the spread of ideas, technologies, and religious beliefs, contributing to the rich tapestry of ancient civilizations. This historical reality adds depth to the biblical narrative, illustrating how God's purposes are intertwined with the broader flow of human history. #, the legacy of Persia in biblical and post-biblical thought. The legacy of Persia in biblical thought extends far beyond its immediate historical interactions with Israel. The prophecies of Daniel, Isaiah, and Ezekiel regarding Persia have had lasting impacts on Jewish and Christian eschatological perspectives. The portrayal of Persia as a key player in God's divine plan has influenced theological interpretations of end-time events, emphasizing the continuity and fulfillment of prophecy across different eras. In Jewish tradition, Persia is often remembered for its role in the return from exile and the rebuilding of the temple, events that are central to Jewish identity and religious practice. The stories of Cyrus and Esther are celebrated as demonstrations of divine intervention and providence, reinforcing the belief in a purposeful and sovereign God. In Christian theology, the prophecies concerning Persia have been interpreted within the broader framework of biblical eschatology. The anticipated role of Persia in end-time prophecies, such as the War of Gog and Magog in Ezekiel 38-39, underscores the belief in God's active involvement in shaping future events. This perspective fosters a sense of preparedness and hope, encouraging believers to remain steadfast in their faith amidst global uncertainties. Moreover, the recognition of Persia's influence on the development of early Christianity highlights the interconnectedness of biblical prophecy with historical realities. The story of the Magi in the New Testament, likely originating from Persia, symbolizes the universal nature of Jesus' message and the fulfillment of prophetic expectations through the inclusion of Gentile figures in the narrative of salvation. #, God's sovereignty in action, from Persia to the future. The prophetic visions in the book of Daniel serve as a powerful illustration of God's sovereignty in action, demonstrating his ability to control and direct the course of human history. The rise and fall of empires, as depicted in these prophecies, are not random or chaotic, but are part of a deliberate and divinely orchestrated plan to achieve God's ultimate purposes. The Medo-Persian Empire's role in the redemption of Israel exemplifies how God can use even the most unexpected and foreign powers to accomplish his will. This divine strategy underscores the theme of God's omnipotence and his capacity to work through diverse cultural and political contexts to bring about his redemptive goals. Looking forward, the prophetic visions in Daniel point towards future events that transcend the immediate historical context, emphasizing the eternal nature of God's kingdom. The anticipated conflicts and power shifts described in these prophecies highlight the ongoing nature of God's sovereignty, reinforcing the belief that His divine plan is continuously unfolding across different epochs and empires. The theological lesson derived from Daniel's prophecies is clear. No earthly power can ultimately thwart God's plans. Despite the seeming dominance and influence of empires like Persia and Greece, they are ultimately subject to God's control and destined to be replaced by His everlasting kingdom. This assurance provides believers with a profound sense of hope and security, knowing that God's purposes will prevail, regardless of the tumultuous events of the world. Daniel's prophecies stand as a testament to the intricate and sovereign nature of God's control over human history. The detailed symbolism and precise predictions regarding the rise and fall of empires like Persia and Greece demonstrate the reliability and divine inspiration of biblical prophecy. These prophecies not only provided hope and direction to the Jewish people during times of exile and oppression, but also continue to influence theological interpretations and eschatological expectations in contemporary faith communities. The portrayal of Persia as a central figure in God's divine plan highlights the inclusive and universal scope of God's redemptive work. It underscores a belief that God's purposes extend beyond cultural and national boundaries, encompassing all nations and peoples in His grand narrative of salvation and restoration. As we reflect on the historical and prophetic significance of Persia in the Bible, we gain a deeper appreciation for the complexity and intentionality of God's plan. Daniel's prophecies invite us to trust in God's sovereignty, recognizing that despite the apparent chaos and power struggles of the world, His divine purposes are being meticulously fulfilled. This trust encourages believers to maintain faith and hope, knowing that God's ultimate victory is assured and that His kingdom will endure forever. In essence, the book of Daniel serves as a powerful reminder of God's unwavering authority and His strategic use of human history to achieve His eternal purposes. The prophecies concerning Persia not only provide a window into the past, but also offer a prophetic vision of the future, reinforcing the timeless truth that God is the ultimate sovereign over all nations and empires. The legacy of Persian administration and cultural influence. The legacy of Persian administration and cultural influence extended far beyond their military conquests. The Persian Empire was renowned for its administrative efficiency, infrastructure development, and cultural policies that promoted stability and prosperity across its vast territories. One of the most significant contributions of the Persian Empire was the establishment of the Royal Road, a vast network of roads that facilitated communication and trade across the empire. This infrastructure not only enhanced economic prosperity, but also allowed for the efficient movement of information and resources, contributing to the empire's longevity and stability. The Persians also practiced religious tolerance, allowing various cultures and religions to maintain their traditions and beliefs. This policy of tolerance fostered a multicultural environment where different peoples could coexist peacefully, contributing to the flourishing of diverse cultures and intellectual traditions. The preservation of sacred texts, including the Hebrew Bible, during the Babylonian exile was made possible through Persian policies that supported religious and cultural diversity. The influence of Persian governance extended into the administrative practices of later empires, including the Greeks and Romans. The sophisticated bureaucratic systems and cultural policies of the Persians served as models for subsequent rulers, highlighting the enduring impact of Persian civilization on world history. His story of Esther, a testament to divine intervention. The Book of Esther not only recounts a historical event, but also serves as a profound testament to divine intervention in human affairs. Esther's rise to queenship and her courageous actions to save the Jewish people from destruction illustrate how God can work through individuals to achieve His purposes. Esther's story begins with her being chosen as queen by King Xerxes, setting the stage for a dramatic turn of events. Haman's plot to annihilate the Jews is met with resistance. Through Esther's bravery and Mordecai's wisdom, Esther's decision to approach the king uninvited, an act that could have led to her death if not for divine providence, demonstrates her faith and trust in God's plan. The reversal of fortunes, where Haman is executed and the Jews are granted the right to defend themselves, underscores the theme of divine justice and protection. Esther's story highlights the importance of courage, faith, and strategic action in the face of adversity. It also emphasizes that God's hand is at work even in the most unexpected and unlikely scenarios, using foreign empires and individuals to fulfill his divine purposes. The festival of Purim commemorates these events, celebrating the survival and prosperity of the Jewish people. The story of Esther serves as a reminder of God's faithfulness and his ability to protect and sustain his people through divine intervention and providence. The Magi and their Persian origins. The New Testament further emphasizes Persia's enduring connection to biblical narratives through the story of the Magi, often referred to as the wise men who visited the infant Jesus in Matthew 2. The term Magi is derived from the Latin word magus, which refers to Zoroastrian priests from Persia. These wise men were likely astrologers and scholars trained in the interpretation of celestial phenomena, a tradition deeply rooted in Persian religious and cultural practices. The journey of the Magi to worship the newborn king of the Jews underscores the far-reaching influence of Persia's wisdom traditions. Their recognition of the star that heralded Jesus' birth demonstrates the global significance of divine revelation, transcending cultural and religious boundaries. The Magi's quest for truth and their willingness to seek out the Messiah highlight Persia's role in the broader biblical story, emphasizing that God's revelation and salvation extend beyond the immediate covenant community. The interaction between the Magi and the Jewish people in Bethlehem signifies the convergence of different cultures and traditions in the divine plan. It illustrates how Persia's scholarly and astrological expertise contributed to the recognition and worship of Jesus, reinforcing the notion that God can use even foreign traditions and practices to fulfill his purposes. Persia's influence on religious freedom and the spread of Christianity. The Persian Empire's policy of religious tolerance had a lasting impact on the development and spread of religions, including Judaism and Christianity. By allowing various cultures and religions to maintain their practices, Persia fostered an environment of religious freedom that was conducive to the flourishing of diverse communities. This policy of tolerance influenced later empires, including the Romans, who adopted similar approaches to governance. The Roman Empire's relative religious freedom allowed Christianity to spread rapidly throughout the Mediterranean world. The legacy of Persian administration, characterized by religious tolerance and cultural diversity, thus played a crucial role in shaping the religious landscape of the ancient world. The acceptance of religious diversity under Persian rule facilitated the preservation and transmission of sacred texts, including the Hebrew Bible, during times of exile and persecution. This preservation was essential for the continuity and survival of the Jewish faith, ultimately contributing to the emergence of Christianity as a distinct religion. #######Iran in Biblical Prophecy. The End Times and Beyond. The role of Iran or Persia in biblical prophecy extends into eschatological visions of the end times. The book of Ezekiel, chapters 38 and 39, introduces a prophetic figure of Gog of Magog and outlines a coalition of nations, including Persia, that will come against Israel in a climactic battle known as the War of Gog and Magog. This prophecy, while often subject to various interpretations, suggests that Persia will play a significant role in the final events leading up to the end times. The coalition of nations, including Persia, represents a formidable alliance of global powers that will challenge Israel in the last days. The outcome of this conflict is depicted as a decisive victory for God, who will protect his people and defeat the forces of evil. The inclusion of Persia in this prophecy highlights its enduring influence and the expectation that it will continue to be a key player in global affairs, even in the eschatological future. The prophecy underscores the theme of divine intervention and the ultimate triumph of God over evil, with Persia serving as an instrument in this divine plan. Theological implications. God's sovereignty and human history. The biblical narrative of Persia's role in history and prophecy underscores the theological principle of God's sovereignty over human affairs. Throughout the Bible, we see a consistent theme that no nation, empire, or leader operates outside of God's control. The rise and fall of empires, including Persia, are depicted as part of God's divine orchestration to fulfill his purposes for his people and the world. This understanding of God's sovereignty provides a profound sense of assurance and purpose. It assures believers that history is not random or chaotic, but is under the control of a divine plan. Even when powerful nations like Persia rise to dominance, they are ultimately instruments in God's larger narrative, used to achieve his redemptive goals. The theological implications extend to the understanding of prophecy and its fulfillment. The precise predictions regarding Persia, such as Cyrus's decree and the events surrounding the Book of Esther, demonstrate the accuracy and reliability of biblical prophecy. This reliability reinforces a belief in the Bible's divine inspiration and the trustworthiness of God's word. Moreover, the narrative of Persia highlights the inclusivity of God's plan, showcasing that his purposes extend beyond the immediate covenant community to encompass all nations and peoples. It emphasizes that God's redemptive work is universal, reaching out to all corners of the world and utilizing diverse cultures and traditions to fulfill his divine will. Contemporary reflections: Iran's role in the modern world. As we consider the historical and prophetic significance of Persia in the Bible, it's pertinent to reflect on Iran's role in the modern world. Iran, as the successor state to ancient Persia, continues to wield significant influence in the Middle East and globally. Its geopolitical strategies, cultural heritage, and religious dynamics echo the historical roles played by its ancient predecessor. Understanding Iran's biblical roots provides a unique perspective on its contemporary actions and policies. It invites believers to view Iran not merely as a modern political entity, but as a nation with deep historical and prophetic significance. This perspective can influence how Christians engage with geopolitical events involving Iran, encouraging a holistic view that integrates historical awareness with prophetic understanding. Furthermore, the recognition of Iran's role in biblical prophecy can inspire a deeper theological reflection on current events. It prompts believers to consider how divine providence may be at work in shaping global affairs and to seek discernment in interpreting the signs of the times. This awareness fosters a proactive and informed approach to global issues, grounded in biblical truth and historical insight. Conclusion: embracing Persia's biblical legacy. The exploration of Persia's role in the Bible reveals a nation of profound historical and prophetic significance. From the lineage of Noah through the reign of Cyrus the Great and the events of the Book of Esther, Persia has been intricately woven into the fabric of biblical history. Its legacy extends into prophetic visions of the future, underscoring its enduring influence and pivotal role in God's divine plan. By understanding Persia's biblical roots, believers gain a deeper appreciation for the interconnectedness of history, prophecy, and divine providence. It highlights the overarching narrative of God's sovereignty and his ability to work through diverse cultures and nations to fulfill his purposes. Persia's story is a testament to the fact that God's plan transcends human boundaries, utilizing even foreign empires and pagan kings to achieve his redemptive goals. As we navigate the complexities of the modern world, recognizing the biblical significance of nations like Iran can enhance our understanding of global events and their spiritual implications. It calls us to view history not as a series of isolated events, but as a cohesive narrative orchestrated by a sovereign God. Embracing this perspective fosters a more informed and spiritually grounded approach to engaging with the world, encouraging believers to seek God's guidance and wisdom in all aspects of life. In conclusion, Persia, now Iran, stands as a remarkable example of how God can use the most unlikely nations to fulfill his divine purposes. Its inclusion in the Bible's grand narrative underscores the depth and breadth of God's redemptive plan, reminding us that no part of history is outside of his control or purpose. As we reflect on Persia's biblical legacy, we are invited to deepen our faith, enhance our understanding of Scripture, and recognize the intricate ways in which God's plan unfolds through history and prophecy. For today is all. Make sure to subscribe to the channel Don't Lose Any of our next video. See you soon.